with us today, we're fortunate to have a panel from the Virginia Department of Transportation. These are three professionals who are involved in engineering in VDOT. They hold different roles there. But one of the things that we wanted to do as we work with VDOT is share what VDOT does and the various roles that you could play if you were interested there. And then secondly, we wanted to have a good candid discussion with people who are traversing a similar path as yourself. And so we welcome Candace Gibson today, Anissa Brown, and Kiana Jennings with us. And I will go through a brief introduction of them, and they can add on to that. And then the way we'll do this is I will pose some questions to them. But if you do have some questions you want to ask in the chat, do that. And if we have time, we'll get to those at the end. So I'll introduce Candace Gibson, who you see on your screen. And you notice she's representing Virginia Tech. Candace actually came from our Hypatia Women Engineering Learning Community. So she was from the program that hosts the Pathways program. She was a resident in the first-year community. She spent her summers interning through VDOT's Engineering Scholarship Program, and upon graduation entered VDOT's Core Development Program. She has held several positions in VDOT to include Signal and Freeway Operations Engineer, Intelligent Transportation Systems Project Manager, Transportation's Operations Center Manager, and currently as Deputy Project Manager for the Regional Multimodal Mobility Program. So we have Candace with us. Anissa Brown's current role at VDOT is as a District Assistant Environmental Manager for the Northern Virginia District. She has participated over the year in and on special committees, including VDOT's District Smart Scale Validation, guest speaker for the Women in Transportation Seminar, and at George Washington University CEI Board for a Special Innovation in Transportation event. Kiana Jennings, as a first-generation college student, Kiana Jennings went through the process of applying to schools, seeking financial assistance, and making sure that she picked the right school. She obtained a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from Morgan State University, which I believe is in Baltimore. And she has been with VDOT for 9 years as a geotechnical engineer and held a number of staff engineer intern positions prior to coming to VDOT. So please welcome all of our guests today. And again, we appreciate you joining us. And for today, we'll pose questions to you. So bear with me as I pull up our questions that we'll moderate our discussion. But Candace, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then we'll go to our other panelists. But as a child, what interest did you have that led you to become an engineer?
Thank you, Perry. Good afternoon, everyone. When I was a child, growing up, a lot of people were fascinated by cars and all these other kinds of things that were out there. I was fascinated by bridges and tunnels. If my family went on vacation and there was a bridge, I spent so much time just really admiring every little detail about that bridge. And so originally I was thinking when I went into college, I was really interested in structures and bridges. I ended up going a different route in infrastructure systems, but that's how I started my interest in engineering. I really wanted to get into civil engineering and learn about the design and the construction with bridges and tunnels. So even now working with VDOT, I'm in different roles, but I get to still be fascinated by all of the design and construction that goes on within the agency.
Great. Anissa, we'll go to you next. As a child, what sparked your interest?
Perry, my interest was very, very unique. I was one of those kids who asked a lot of questions over every little thing. Anything that you can imagine, I would ask a question about it. I wanted to know how it worked. I wanted to take it apart. I wanted to figure out how can I make it better? And if I can't make it better, then what was the engineering? What went into making it? So my big thing was buildings. I love drawing buildings. I like to study buildings. I love architecture, just the way buildings would sit, I would look at the perspective and try and figure out how can you recreate something like this to make it better, or if it was me, how would I do that myself? And I loved anything that was science-based. And so for me, rather than getting dolls, I got chemistry sets and telescopes, and my mom gave me books because I asked so many questions because I needed this information. And so moving through, I thought architecture would probably be the best major for me, but I actually focused on mechanical engineering because it was more than just the architecture. You can do a lot more, and there were different things. Because I like to tinker with things, that's the role that I ended up going through. But I also love geography, so I would actually take different areas around the world and the globe and try and figure out a building that would fit there that would make it seem like it was perfect in that perfect setting. So I had this dilemma in school. Do you stay with engineering or do you go with geography? So I actually had a dual track for the longest until I came to my third year. And I finally decided to go ahead and go with geography, but my love is still engineering as well.
That's great. And Kiana, what was your experiences?
Well, throughout high school and even in like middle school, I had zero interest in like English and history, social studies. It just wasn't something that fascinated me. But when it came down to the sciences and math, I always excelled tremendously. So I knew that math and science was my area that I wanted to pursue beyond high school. During high school, I tested into the math and science technology program, and there you had to choose a pre-curriculum. I chose pre-engineering. And from there, I pursued engineering. And plus, and I'm going to be very honest, I always enjoyed the finer things in life, but I came from a really small, like area where my parents, they worked hard, but they really couldn't buy me what I wanted. And I knew that if I became an engineer, I could buy whatever I wanted
That's great.
myself.
That's
That's
great.
been honest. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Candace, coming back to your to you, what do you like about the work you do now?
So with the work that I do now, I've had the opportunity in VDOT to see a lot of different roles within VDOT. As Perry had mentioned with my background, I started out in my summers in the engineering scholarship program. So I got to rotate around with different divisions within the agency to see what do they do and how it related to the classwork I was doing back at school. And it was great. And then when I graduated, I entered in the core development program, and it was a similar opportunities where I was able to spend time with different divisions within the agency and really get a handle of the big picture, the big transportation picture. When I graduated from that group, I actually started off as a signal engineer. Then I was a freeway engineer. After doing that role, and that involved a lot of signal timing optimization and planning for incident management timing and really moving vehicles through the arterial network. After that role, I was in the ITS, Intelligent Transportation System project management. So I got to do a lot of project management with some of the like upgrading the ramp metering for 395 and I-66, things of those sorts. And then I moved into a role where I was the Transportation Operations Center manager. And so in that role, really looking at the emergency management, incident management, the weather management, all of those roles in the operational side of the house. And now currently, I'm the deputy for a regional multimodal mobility program looking at all the different modes of transportation within the kind of the Northern Virginia region. But I'm also, in part of that role, I'm also an engineer for the Office of Strategic Innovation. So I've got to work on just helping and being there for everyone within the agency on the different innovations that they're working on to make their day-to-day more efficient and productive. So the one thing that I've loved about what I do is, as you can see in my role, and I think, Anissa kind of touched on it too, engineering in itself opens up so many doors where I've done some maybe traditional engineering things, and then I've also been able to do some maybe of the non-traditional engineering aspect as well in the operational field of things. So it's really opened up a lot of opportunities, and I've never gotten bored. I've been in, with VDOT for a number of years as well, but just the different opportunities that exist and that you're able to be a part of. Never get bored.
Anissa, share some about what you like about your work.
So my job is really interesting. Environmental itself at VDOT is within our location of design. So we're working side by side with all of the engineers as they do project development. So my background, having the engineering background and also having the geography background, applying it to the environmental section, basically it allows me to mesh everything together. And because I have those skills from all of my engineering, all of my GE classes that I took, I can read design plans. A lot of people can't read design plans and actually understand how it's going to impact the environment without having to go in and talk to a lot of people. And what I tend to do is I take a lot of the technical information from the design, all of the designers, and I take all of the technical information from the environmental assessments and just evaluations in the field. And I work with a group of people. We put all that information together in environmental documents, and we take that out to the public. So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand are all of the technical terms. So part of my job is taking something super technical that doesn't make sense and it just looks like, spaghetti on a paper, and explaining exactly what it is, exactly what the impacts are and how it actually impacts you. So one of my roles is at public meetings, public hearings, I'm a speaker and I actually talk directly to the community to make sure they understand what the project is. And I find that a very important role because we do a lot of work to help the communities, but the communities also have to understand what goes into that work and how it's going to impact them. And what I find so rewarding is at the end of the day, I may come home and I may be exhausted, but it's a mental exhaustion because you've worked really hard and you've actually reached someone and explained that information to them. And I think it's really important, whatever you do, no matter which discipline in engineering you're in, that you're always able to explain to someone what it is, how it impacts them, and how it will benefit them. And I find for my job, at least personally, that's satisfying because VDOT has a lot of outreach, especially in the Northern Virginia district, and I enjoy being a part of that.
Thank you. So, Kiana, what do you enjoy about your work?
The good thing about geotechnical engineering at VDOT, my job consists of about 50% in the office and then the other half in the field. So in addition to me designing pavement inside of the office, I get to visit construction sites. I ride through some of the subdivisions and pretty much spot out different distresses that I may see on the pavement. It's rewarding in the sense that I fix some of the routes that people complain about every day because I am also a driver. So I look at the road as I'm driving it and try to determine the best way to fix it. If I notice something while I'm driving in Virginia, I go to my job, I report it. I'm a consumer, so it's very rewarding in a sense to know that like my everyday work, it benefits the Commonwealth. It's enjoyable like that. In addition to that, I design foundations for retaining walls, bridges, pretty much every structure dealing with transportation in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we also have other opportunities at VDOT that we participate in. We have the Commonwealth of Virginia campaign that Anissa and I, we run it together where we host a ton of events to raise money for charities throughout the state of Virginia. In Northern Virginia alone, I think last year we raised somewhat of like $30,000 or $40,000 for local charities. We also host, well, not us, but the Civil Rights section hosts a career fair where we go and we speak about our careers, what we do. We go to high schools, we speak about what we do because our experiences can definitely help other kids. So there's different parts to it.
Yeah, a lot of different aspects. Yeah, thank you. So, Candace, back to you and shifting gears a little bit from what you liked. What do you find challenging or what's difficult about the work you do?
So one of the things that I find challenging, and probably even more so now with everything COVID-19 and so many virtual meetings, is the time management. As these other ladies can contest, I mean, life can get very, very busy at work. There's always something that needs to get done, but you really, the skills to prioritize your work, there's different deadlines for things or looking at that aspect of it. But I know even now with the flexibility of being able to have virtual meetings and not have that travel time, I feel like sometimes there's a lot of meetings throughout the day, but there's also the work that you need to get done as well. So really trying to manage that time in between. I even myself sometimes set up meetings for myself where I designate this is the time where I'm going to review something and make comments and those kind of things. So really to manage your time has been something that was challenging, but I've learned tools along the way to help with that.
Great. Anissa, how about you?
I think one of the big challenges right now that we have are similar to what Candace was just saying, is not only resource management, but people management, who are also resources. With the current situation, I have a staff that are working on separate documents now, not in the office where I can get up and walk to them, but now I have to try and, like Candace was saying, you're scheduling time to meet with them to find out, are they okay? Do they have the resources they need to keep moving forward? And then I have to make sure that all the project managers and everyone else, all the projects that we're working on are staying on track. So we've been delivering environmental documents and basically design projects in the same span of time that we've been on COVID, because we feel that it's important to make sure that our project delivery stays on schedule. And I would say just making sure that you take time for yourself. I'm a workaholic, and I find, unfortunately, I'm working to 8 o'clock sometimes because I'm home. There's no commute. So I'm getting up at 7 and working to 8. And I would say, make sure you set a balance for yourself and set limits for yourself, because you need to work for so many hours and you do need to rest. So try and keep that balance. It's going to be really hard at some point because I'm very passionate about my job and I want to get things done. And so I'm just working through. But I would say, keep the overall view of what you're doing and set a time limit for your work, and make sure that with your home life and your personal life, you still give yourself time, because otherwise you start to feel burned out.
Okay. Thank you. And Kiana, what's challenging about the work you do?
I would definitely say just having access to all of the software that I use. That's one of the biggest challenges that I'm having right now. But we're very busy because construction never slowed down, even in the pandemic. So, and we're dealing with the entire Northern Virginia. So I may have projects where we're paving a gravel road in Loudoun County, and I live in Waldorf, Maryland, which is probably a 2-hour drive for me. So time management is definitely a big task for me. And then in my section, we work definitely as a team. So we're logging samples together for multiple projects. And we have to coordinate. We have a certain time frame where we leave our papers before the next person can actually touch them. So it takes a lot of time management, prioritizing, because we have to get the project done. That's the ultimate goal. So I'm going back and forth between my home and the office every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Perry, if I could add one thing to that as well, one thing that I was really proud to see within VDOT is, especially when everyone went to a lot of differences with COVID-19 hit, but a lot of innovation and a lot of collaboration and a lot of resources have been available for people to be able to, like Anissa was saying with collaboration. We have a lot of collaboration tools that were made available for us to be able to be in a meeting and working off of the same document and be able to edit and make comments accordingly. A lot of great ideas from fellow employees have really been brought to the spotlight on how we can do things more efficiently and better, and just to be able to really get things done, because like these other ladies said, our work has not slowed down. We've had to find new ways and get through new challenges, but the work has not slowed down at all. So I was really proud to see the agency really come together and all of the employees on really how we can get things done.
And I just want to add, Perry, that on most of these projects, we're all working together. So it's not just geotechnical engineering. I'm working with environmental. I'm working with structural engineering, traffic engineering. So we all have to work together. And during this time, we're all in different places. So that's one of the biggest challenges. Reviewing plans to get projects even to construction is a challenge these days, but we're all getting it done. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll definitely appreciate the work that you all are doing and continue to do in spite of the challenges we're facing. Looking back, and I'll go back to Candace here, looking back at your experiences from kindergarten on through college, what have been the experiences that have proven to be the most valuable to you in your career to this point?
All right, I'll start off with the grade school years. I think some of the best opportunities that helped me was actually being exposed to the different career opportunities that were out there. For myself, particularly as a first generation college student, for even my larger family network, being able to be exposed to what possibilities were out there that really matched those interests that I had. Like I said, I was fascinated with bridges and tunnels, and to see, okay, civil engineering may be an aspect that I really enjoy, like with math and science and things that I just naturally worked well with and enjoyed. So those opportunities that are out there, and all three of us, we are all big part of that career fair that VDOT has every year, and so that I to be able to see what those opportunities in the transportation world itself, even beyond the engineering aspect, was great. Also, I would say to be involved with a lot of opportunities that were extracurricular, for instance, volunteering or being able to. I also did a lot of with Spanish class, so I was one of the Spanish ambassadors for this Metro Richmond Zoo, where I put together a brochure for them, but different things to have that well-roundedness, especially when you're looking at being able to apply for colleges and different opportunities that are out there. In addition to scholarships that are out there, I know, and I tell a lot of the students I see at the career fairs as well, when you're looking at the university you're interested in, there's scholarship opportunities there, but there is a lot of scholarship opportunities just within the community itself. So to definitely, work with guidance counselors or career development folks to see what those opportunities out there, because I know for myself, most of my scholarship money came not from Virginia Tech itself, but from outside and just the community. You'll be surprised how much is out there. So those opportunities really help to get me set up and going into college, as well as I would say any opportunities that you find similar to this, that you can be exposed to what it's like to be a student or be in a program during the summer. Definitely take it. I know myself, I did a 2-week program where I had a project and I was there on campus, and I was able to really see and get excited about what it would feel like being a student on campus. As well, it actually helped during that time. I got some skills and some knowledge that helped in my schoolwork and the very next year as well. During college, I would say that definitely see the resources that are available. I'm not to try to brag, but I know for myself, when I was in grade school, a lot of the schooling came easy for me. Like I would do my homework and I didn't really have to study so hard. It just came a little bit more natural. But when I got to college, it was a big difference for me. And so I really had to learn and find the techniques that worked for me to learn how to study properly and be able to hold on to that knowledge and to learn. And so I really worked with different group studies. I also did some, I had a tutor. They had where you could go to one of the academic buildings and get tutoring on certain subjects at certain times. So I really took advantage of those opportunities, and I learned for myself that I worked really well on learning aspects by being able to have discussions and explain to other people what a concept or what something we were learning was about. So that really helped a lot, because you get there, you're around, everybody is intelligence bar, everybody is on top of it. So to really get your feet settled with that. I would also say during college, definitely find those opportunities to intern, find internships for the summer. There's a lot of, the one for VITA that I participated in, I ended up choosing that one because they provided a scholarship as well as summer pay. So some of the other companies, it was some great opportunities they provided, but the one that VDOT provided was just one of the best. It was hard to find a scholarship in summer pay, because we all know there's things that we want to buy as well, but also can help out with our costs for schooling as well. So those opportunities, like I said, one, it's resume builders, but even more importantly, it helps with you seeing that real world aspect. So when you're in the classroom, it really helps make those connections and connect the dots where you see not only you're learning about the concepts, but you also see them out in the real world. And I would say that when you're starting to do these internship opportunities and stuff, the networking and being able to find a mentor to help you navigate through is great, because it's really a small world. A lot of connections that you may make early on in life, you find yourself reaching out again at some point. And so definitely don't burn any bridges, since I mentioned the bridges, because you never know who you come across in this field and what opportunities or what things they may be able to provide or help you with. Or even, with VDOT itself, so many of the different departments were correlated and have to work with each other. So I would definitely say that. And I also would say take advantage of any opportunities that are there when you're in college. One thing I didn't do that I wish I would have done is study abroad. So that's one thing, if I could go back, that I would do that I didn't do. And then another aspect I would say as well is things like, for instance, the engineering and training certification. You have that opportunity to have a course while you're there to prepare you and to take that exam. I would say don't put stuff off, because once you get into the real world and you're working and all the responsibilities that come with it, it's harder to find that time. So take advantage of the opportunities that exist while you're in school. Just don't put it off, especially too if you're interested in, even after getting your bachelor's, you're interested in a graduate degree. Go ahead and do it immediately after. Don't say, oh, I'll work and maybe come back a few years. And some people are able to do that, of course, but why not go ahead? Like I said, don't put anything off. Take those opportunities where you can. And I would say, I know a lot of universities, and I know with my experience at Virginia Tech, the career fairs that they have at school are amazing opportunities. I mean, they bring employers to you, seeking out you to work for them for internship opportunities and after graduation opportunities. So definitely take those opportunities. It helps you practice your interviewing skills and building your resume, and hopefully comes out with you having those opportunities to work. So I'll let others speak. I could go on. There's so many things that I definitely would recommend or get advice, but I'll go ahead and let the others chime in as well.
Yeah. So Anissa, for you, what were some school experiences, education experiences that have impacted your path?
I would say, I know it'll probably sound funny, and I know for those of you in high school, if you've ever heard someone say that someone is a nerd without glasses, that would kind of be what I was in high school. I was very academically inclined, but I also played sports. So I was a first baseman on the girls softball team, varsity. I could take people out, I can hit a home run, and then I can go and get an A+ on my math test. So for me, kind of like Candace, what she was saying, everything came very naturally, and all of my classes seemed to me they were very easy. Even in elementary school, when you got put in the other classes to make you get challenged, it really wasn't that hard, and yet other people were struggling. So for me, I thought it was interesting. So in high school, I participated in the science club, there was a science Olympiad, there was a academic club, any kind of club that had me challenged and doing more and learning more. I was part of I don't know if it's here. I'm from California, by the way. So in California, we have an academic Olympiad, which is basically you take some of the smartest kids, and you pair them with everybody. So you have people who are like college prep, regular, all the grade levels. You join a team, and then you go around and you compete against other teams to try and win the state level. And my team that year had these really hard composers that you had to remember the particular notes and the rhythm, the beat of that. And I kind of made it into an equation in my mind. So when I would hear the different ones, I could identify them. Even though some of them are very similar, there was something that would be different about each one of them. And I take that approach to everything. Whatever is in front of me and I need to figure it out, you make it into something easy for you to understand, and then you don't struggle with it, or you don't even think about it anymore. And I also was in a program like the one you're in right now, and I was in it for about a year and a half. And we were able to, on the weekends, go to all of the major colleges and stay overnight. So I have been to UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Santa Cruz. I think we stayed in Northern California. But what you do is you actually go in and you get paired with another college student, and you find out what are they doing, what are their classes like, what's the full college experience. So you basically, it was a weekend sleepover. They had special courses that they taught, and we would go into the courses with the student, and they would basically mentor us and show us around the campus. And it was really interesting because you get to see the perspective from somebody who's in college already, rather than if you're in high school, you're thinking about what somebody in college is doing. But when you're really with that person, you had that one-on-one experience to find out what was going on. In addition to that, being in that particular program, they gave us all the military ASVAB tests, which is the aptitude test to find out if you are going into the military, are you going into the right field? And they gave that test to us to make sure that we were on the right track for college. And I tested for either a JAG lawyer or a engineering person within the military, which I found very interesting, which the test to me was really easy, but I have some friends who took it and didn't score so well. So I don't really know what that's about. But also, when you do get to college, what Candace was saying is completely true, which is you have to take your opportunities. I actually found my job, my first job, full on kind of job there, interning with Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation. And I started as an intern. And after a year and a half, they wanted me to take a special exam so that I could come on as a full-time employee once I graduated. And I went ahead and I did that as well. So I went from basically being a regular student to an intern to into the special program, which they called temporary authorization, which is similar to the program that Candace was also mentioning. And then from there, I started working. So I worked myself from the bottom all the way up to a manager at Caltrans. And then in that amount of time, I worked on any project you can imagine. I worked on purely maintenance, and I ran the maintenance program. I worked on specialty projects, working directly with different federal agencies, making sure that our projects were in compliance for the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, which is what basically the environmental section is all about. I trained new employees as they came on as a mentor to bring them up to speed to get them moving forward. I sat on the special panels that went over projects and funding, not my supervisor or not the leads, because I can pick up on very technical things that the engineers were talking about. So I was sent on behalf of my department to learn those things. I was sent to help create a database and provide background information, not because I was the only one who knew how to do it, but they knew that I could go and represent that department very well. So when you have the opportunity to learn something that's unique, even in college, even right now, take that chance to do it, because I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the crazy things that I've learned in an interview, even now, people will ask me, I saw in your application that you wrote a national poem for the National Library of Congress. What was that all about? I just wanted to do it, and I wrote a poem, and it's been published in the National Library, and it's there. And I don't know, sometimes you have to take a chance to do something different, and you have to separate yourself out from the pack. So whatever you're thinking right now, don't think it has to be cookie cutter. You yourself are the innovators for the future. And I found a way to innovate what I do right now. And I would just say to you, look at the information you have, plan out what you think you need to do, because once you get to college, a lot of times all bets are off because there's so much information. There's so much going on. Just walking around the campus, there's going to be so much going on. There's going to be loud music. Somebody's going to be asking you to fill out a petition. Don't fill out all the credit card applications. Don't do it no matter how much stuff they give to you. Don't do it. Don't get yourself locked into that kind of debt either. That's just what I'm going to tell you right now. Don't do it. Take interesting classes too. I took a lot of classes like theory and reasoning. So you know, A plus B equals C. You go through a whole entire course where you're trying to figure out you just get equations, and you have to try and figure out how do you rationalize. But what's interesting now is I can take very complex things and rationalize them down to the same type of elements. And it makes me feel like in life, nothing is overwhelming because I have that in my background, and I can always pull that skill set. So take your opportunities. Don't feel that you have to be someone who fits into a perfect little cookie cutter box. Think outside the box. Throw away the box. The box is gone. You are the future. We don't need boxes anymore. So just, do what you can and take your opportunities and hang in there. I know right now in high school, I remember being a little frustrated because you want to do a lot of things and a lot of people don't take you seriously. And I'm telling you right now, I'm taking you seriously, and so will the future. So take your opportunities and hang in there.
Thank you so much. Kiana, coming over to you there, looking back on your education, what's been some things that's made a difference for you?
My most memorable experience would be my participation in the Upward Bound program at Howard University. Upward Bound and what they call Math Science Initiative, it provides an opportunity for high school students grades 9 through 12 to come on campus. We stay in their dorms for 6 weeks straight throughout the summer from ninth grade through 12th grade. We attend classes taught by college professors. They take us on college tour. They took us on college tours, and we had like collaborative projects throughout the whole process. And during the entire school year, they offered us tutoring every single Saturday throughout the whole school year. That moment alone, it gave me an experience as to what it was like to be on a college campus, eat in a college cafeteria, all these things. But it was a great learning experience. And let me know, kind of I would say, let me know if I wanted to do engineering or if I wanted to go to college in general, which I already knew I wanted to do. But that experience alone and speaking with other college students, it kind of motivated me. And that, these other kids, they were just like me. They were a little bit naive as to the college experience, but, it gave a lot of insight on what it's like to live on a college campus. So that was a big idea for me. And one of the biggest gains from that was the networking opportunity because the program coordinator herself, she wrote me a recommendation letter for college. In addition to that, at our closing ceremony, I met the head of the Office of Retention and Recruitment at Morgan State University. So when it came down time to apply for Morgan, and once I was in the engineering program, I reached out to her for scholarships because I couldn't afford to go to college. It was a big deal for me. I wanted to go, I wanted to stay on campus, but I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. And once you apply for financial aid, that may or may not cover every single expense. So reaching out to people at the school and having that inside connection, it helped me because 2 weeks after that last closing ceremony at Upward Bound, she reached out to me and gave me a scholarship to go to Morgan. So I would definitely say take advantage of the opportunities you have in high school, meeting new people, especially at a school that you're interested in. Take tours. Go more than once. Talk to students that went there. Definitely. Oh, and another important thing during high school, you have to be willing to work with others, especially if you want to go into the engineering field. The biggest thing I've learned in college, some of the problems that we had to work on were pages long. And it would take me hours to do it. But working with a group of my peers, other students, we were able to tackle it head on as a group. And we all would get it right. But working alone, you can work as a loner all you want, but sometimes it may work against you instead of working for you. So that would be like the biggest advice I would give to you all. And check out the Upward Bounds and the Virginia Tech Pathways program. Programs like this, it helps you in the long run. You can reach out to these same people for recommendation letters because you want something that's going to set you apart from the next one. Getting to the school may or may not be easy, but staying there and getting scholarships and those things, you need something to kind of give you a boost amongst the rest.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Perry, can I mention one more opportunity too? I know Perry mentioned that I was in the Hypatia community as well. The learning community was a great experience from being able to have people who are in your classes, they live in your dorm, you're able to work on group projects together, even just some of the camaraderie that, for instance, it may be an evening, everybody else on campus, they're getting ready to go hang out or do whatever, and you've got some tests coming up, but everybody else in your dorm, you all are in the same boat. You guys are focused and you're preparing. It just was help with that sense of community and being able to work together and everything. So I loved that opportunity as well. And I think all these ladies just echoing everything that they said, just those opportunities that are out there to really help you along the way.
Yeah. Wonderful insights there. The question I was looking to come to, many of the points you've made kind of speak to that question, talk about advice that you would give. So I want to spin it a little bit different here. We've talked about academic experiences, but I'd like for you to expand a little more about how you've made connections. And Kiana said something just a little bit ago, talking about getting the inside connection. And I think speaking from a Pathways perspective, a lot of what we're about is helping you all as scholars to make connections as you go on your academic path, but also your career path. So Candace, coming back to you there, talk a little bit more about advice you would give on how to make connections And this is also from a career perspective. And I would also include VDOT in there because these are all Virginia students here. So we have VDOT across the state of Virginia. What advice would you give to these students over these next few years to make connections?
Yeah, so with the connections, as I mentioned, even from starting with, for instance, the learning community, a lot of the members of that community we still keep in touch to this day. So that means a lot of us are in various different engineering jobs that are that all across the country and actually all across the world, really. And sometimes different opportunities come up on their end, and so it's really nice to be able to say, "Hey, are any of you guys, we have this opening that's coming up. Is anyone interested?" Or I know I'm interested. I want to move. I'm now in California, but I want to move back to Virginia. Do you know of what opportunities that exist? And someone may say, "Oh, actually, we're looking for." So a lot of those networking opportunities, even starting from in those college years, that you find out. I feel like you make a lot of those lifelong connections when you're in school. As well as I would say a lot of the organizations that are out there. I kind of work my way backwards. Like now, some of the professional organizations that they have, the different engineering groups that are out there, where you're able to be involved in a lot of the different events that they have that can help from like building your resume or learning how to do public speaking, are these kind of topics that these different groups, if you're a part of, they may have these opportunities to help strengthen your skills as well. And even throughout the college years, I would say, I mean, myself, I was probably involved in various different things over the various years, from being a part of like student government association, from being in intramural sports and participating or volunteering at things. But the people that you meet and the experience that you learn from their experiences and the things that you gain from each other, it's really beneficial in those connections. And a lot of things I would say there's people who when I was in the program when I graduated that I worked with. I grew up in Central Virginia area, so I spent some my summers there and then moved to the Northern Virginia area. But a lot of the times, the work that I'm doing right now with the Office of Strategic Innovation or with the regional program I'm working on, there's a lot of connections that I have to work with in the Richmond office in Central. And a lot of those folks actually remembered me from my summers that I spent there. So, like I'm saying, a lot of times you may be working in a different group. Like I was in transportation mobility planning, and it wasn't the actual track that I was interested in going in. But what do you know now, years later down the road, I'm working on a program where I need some assistance from that group. And I know who to reach out with, or at least know a little bit because I've spent some time with them and trying to speak some of the lingo that they do to get the help that I need with that. So the connections that you can make that way are tremendous when you reach out to these professional organizations or just extracurricular activities, or when you have those internship opportunities, as well as I would be the people when you're in college, the people that you interact with, your professors, these kind of things. There's a handful of folks that I've continued to keep in touch with, and it may not be a every month basis, but from time to time throughout the year to just say hello and this is what I've been doing, and just to keep in touch. That way, it helps out with references, or for instance, for VDOT, for when I was in the operations group, we had a leadership conference in Blacksburg, Virginia. So I reached out to Dr. Beverly Wofford as a speaker, those kind of things, but we had been keeping in touch. So things like that just all come back around, and networking and building that. And I would say one of the things, and I think we've kind of all touched on it, but I would echo as well, as find a mentor, and that can change over time and over the years. But a mentor is a great opportunity to have someone that you look up to them in their career path, and they can offer advice, or you can ask them some candid questions about things that you're and worried about or concerned about or interested or want to know how they did, or advice, etc. But mentors, I've had mentors throughout the years, and it's been really beneficial.
Anissa, looking at what advice would you give in terms of networking? And yeah, it's interesting your path coming from California to here. I have to ask, I'm kind of curious, how did you make that journey there, and how have connections impacted your career?
So my trek to get to Virginia has been really interesting. The first thing I should say is I do not like the humidity or the snow because I don't have that in California. So that's been really hard over these almost 6 years trying to get used to that. But I am fully Californian, born, raised, always in California. And I love the field that I'm in right now. And I love that it's so unique because we do work in the environmental field with engineering and with all of the other disciplines that go into roadway, anything that goes in the roadway. And being from California my whole life, I really felt like I needed to get out. So my actual degree is in technical geography with GIS emphasis. And for me, I wanted to go somewhere else. And so part of my studies in college were transportation systems of the US. And I had studied the I-66 corridor, I had studied I-95, all of these other transportation corridors that were outside of California. So I thought, let's look at different DOTs across the US to see maybe I can just try, just apply, just see what's going on. And I got a hit in Denver, I got a hit in Texas, and VDOT. I didn't get anything initially, but the DOD for the Navy called. So I thought, hey, that's not bad. It's in DC. So I started looking around, and before I would have started my background check for the DOD, VDOT let me know that I was one of the candidates that was selected to interview for the position I have right now. And so, again, I started going through, who do I know? Who can I get a reference from? What can I do to separate myself from somebody else? So I went back, like Candace was saying, I had letters of recommendation from teachers, from college professors, from different groups that I had worked with, different different people within Caltrans, people outside of Caltrans. And I basically made a packet that was so impressive that I got that phone call for the interview. And even once I've gotten here, I have been on different committees. I've worked on different special assignments and I've done different things. So now I have FHWA who has me on speed dial, the Federal Highway Administration. They will call me and ask me a quick question about the district. And it's not always for environmental because I'm a contact. And I love the fact that they're comfortable enough to pick up that phone and to call me. And I love the fact that I have friends on LinkedIn that I grew up with. I have people that I've interacted with who will do the same. They will email me or just send me a message. Hey, we have a job over here. Would you be interested? I usually say no because I'm still here. And when I have positions that are available, I post it there. And immediately I have people who will contact me and ask me questions. One thing I do want to say, I do want to give Candace a huge shout out. When I started at VDOT, she was so kind. She actually went out to lunch with me the first month I was there, and she gave me information about the agency. She gave me just a lot of background information, and she was, I want to say, just really the sweetest person. And through Candace, actually, I joined the Women's Transportation Seminar. It's called WTS, and it's a group for professional women engineers and women in transportation, period. And it's just been really exciting joining that group because now I have more contacts. And I work with a lot of consultants, and basically through the WTS, I've expanded my realm, my circle, social circle and professional circle. And doing that also basically put me in the path of other people. And now I've been building additional relationships off of all of that based off of having lunch with Candace and her telling me about this group. So your resources and your friends that you have, those are that should be your first building block. And then you keep expanding from that. And just this last year, I had the opportunity to be a guest speaker for the Women's Transportation Seminar. And that was really neat because they wanted to hear about environmental impacts and how to minimize impacts to construction areas. And that's something people don't think about. So on a lot of our projects, we have to keep stormwater and any kind of hazardous materials from leaving the site because we would be fined. And we went into a whole entire presentation over the things you look for, why you're looking for them, and then the consequences of that. And that group that we shared that with were consultants who actually go out and do that construction work. So they're designing these projects, and yet environmental came in to help them make a better project that actually benefits the community. And all of that still comes down to interacting with each other. And any chance you meet someone, even if they're just taking 5 minutes to talk to you, ask them, do you have a card? Do you mind if I can get one of your cards? Can I call you sometime? Be very polite about it, but collect the cards, because basically when you hear people say they're going to go through the Rolodex, get that information, because that's a future lead that you may not even be thinking about right now. And every person that you talk to and you get a card from, that is another person who can help you, and it just keeps going. And I would say, don't be shy when someone's there talking to you about information that would be useful to you. Ask them follow-up questions, and again, ask if you can get a card. If I was there with you right now, I would give all of you one of my cards. And I think they may be sharing our information, but anything you do that can benefit you in the future and give you that one up, take that opportunity.
Thank you. Kiana, what advice do you have as far as making connections?
Starting in high school, the first opportunity I would say is reach out to your guidance counselors. They can help with taking the SAT, college application fees, building relationships with them. Because if they hear of an opportunity and they have a student in mind, you just may be that student. But you kind of have to make that initial connection. So I would definitely start there. And then also, if you're working, because I know for me, I worked at McDonald's, I worked at Old Navy, I worked at all these different places in high school. McDonald's actually had a scholarship. I applied and I won. So you have to look at opportunities like that too, to see what's offered to you. Keep those relationships, because you never know when you may have to come back to that employer. They can make great recommendations to show that you were a consistent employee for years with them. Even if it was the most minute job or whatever the case may be, it can show your level of dedication, your level of time management. These are things that people can speak on. And I will go back, I think Candace said it, like maintaining these friendships and never burn bridges. Never ever burn bridges, because you never know when you have to go back to one of these people for advice, a letter, or anything of that nature.
Thank you so much. Well, we are getting close to our time here. Again, if there's any questions, we just have about 7 minutes left here. But if any of our scholars want to pose a question in the chat, I know we probably couldn't get to many questions, but in the time left, if you have something, feel free to do that. I want to show who's with me here in the room. Come on over. But I want to extend just a thank you to all of you for being a part of this panel. I have with me my daughters who have been listening in to your session. They are 10 years old and 6 years old. And so as you talked about having a mentor and role models, I just want to say I appreciate what you all are doing and your willingness to reach out here, because beyond Pathways, we have generations still to come here. So to you, the Pathway scholars, always consider the impact you're having on future generations, whether you're reaching out there or also in the example you're setting of being involved, of setting yourself apart from others, of taking advantage of opportunities there to learn. Those are wonderful. It's wonderful advice to share today, and I really appreciate it. And again, having my daughters here in the room to hear that message as well is really important. So do we have any questions anyone wants to pose in the chat? So I see some thank yous coming in there. Candace, I will go back to you because, and I know we have Morgan State represented and Cal State Fresno, so wonderful schools there. I know Morgan State a little bit, but I have to go back to Candace because you are representing Virginia Tech with us today. So I'll take some liberties there. We have a wonderful living learning community here in our center where we coordinate pathways that if you come to Virginia Tech as a pathway student, we would offer you a pathway admissions into this program. Candace, could you share a little bit about your experiences with Hypatia and kind of give a sales pitch for that program? I'd really appreciate it if we could wrap up with that.
Yes, definitely. Hypatia was an amazing learning community. To be honest, I'm not sure if I would have made it through that first year without that community support. Like I mentioned, the aspect of having a group of fellow engineers there with you to be able to form study groups, to be able to just the natural understanding. I will say this, I distinctly will always remember this to this time. There are times throughout the year where things are going to get tough at times. You've got a lot that you're trying to juggle with your studies and everything else. But when you look around and you see that, okay, we're all going through this, but we're all going to get through this together. It was very beneficial to have that surrounding around me. To also be able to be in some courses and have familiar faces. I knew them because they lived on my hall, and we were able to bounce things off of each other. To be able to have the resources available when we worked on different projects. And I know now, I think you guys with the Hypatia Galleria community, they have the studio there in your hall to be able to work on these projects together. Those are amazing opportunities. And like I said, the networking from that and the friendships that you build last a lifetime. You'll find that you meet a lot of different people through your years there, but some of the ones that you really spend a good chunk of your time with, you don't lose those relationships with them. So I really credit that community to help with also just with my focus. Like I said, one of the things that was a harder transition for me was to learn how to study. And so having that support and those resources available really helped guide me through that first year, because I will say there's times, no matter what major you're in, that things can get tough. So to have that community, that sense of community there really helps pull you through. So.
Well, we're hours just about up. So again, on behalf of the Pathways program and all of our scholars who joined us today, I just want to really express our appreciation to you all for taking time out to talk with us. Again, we've shared the bio with all of our students, and as they go along their path there, I know you all would be a great resource for them should they look at opportunities at VDOT or beyond there. So again, thank you all for the time today, and appreciate the example you're setting. And again, to all of our scholars who joined us today, thank you all for listening in. And I know you all will be convening at 2 o'clock in our design session. One of the things I do want to promote to all of our panelists today is on the last day of our camp, which is the afternoon of July 24th, our students will present their design. We talked about the design problems they're looking at with interstate rest areas with VDOT. So if y'all have an opportunity, I'll be glad to share that and watch some of their presentations online. So that way you can see some of the students today and some of the ideas they have. And we'd love it if you had the opportunity to join us. We'd certainly welcome you. We'll be doing that all afternoon on the 24th. So it'll be from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You can feel free to join in anytime, and I'll share that link with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all again. And we really appreciate it. And you all have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.